All right, here we are, standard 6B. You're going to be able to describe the age of absolutism, including the monarchies of Louis XIV and Peter the Great. So absolutism in Europe. Let's take a look at that word absolutism. We have the word absolute in here. So absolute means to have total control. So from the 16th to the 18th centuries, many European nations were ruled by monarchs, kings and queens, who claimed the authority to rule without limits on their power, to have absolute control. A vocabulary word that you need to know is an absolute monarch. So a monarch is a king or a queen who's going to hold all the power within their state's boundaries. Their goal is to control every aspect of society. That includes economic, religious, and political. Another vocabulary word that you need to know is divine right. An absolute monarch believed in the idea that God had created the monarchy and that the monarch acted as God's representative on earth. So an absolute monarch, they're going to answer only to God. They do not have to answer to his or her subjects. So it's an idea that basically God had put his finger on this king or queen and said, "You have the right to rule absolutely." We know it's a crock, a scam, but back then, this is what they came up with, and this is what they thought, and the people followed suit. Growing power of Europe's monarchs. So what is going to lead to the rise of absolute monarchs? We are going to have the decline of feudalism. We're going to have rise of cities, the growth of nation states, a growing middle class backed by monarchs, and the breakdown of church authority. So we need to talk about this vocabulary word, centralization. So to increase their power, absolute monarchs worked to take power away from other groups and to control everything. They did this by increasing the power of the central government. So they're increasing the central government's power, and they're going to take away from the state's power, and they're going to take away from the local power. All this to control more. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about our first absolute monarch, Louis XIV. Roman numerals. Here's a quick little breakdown. This stands for 14. We're going to have the X, which represents 10. When the I comes in front of the V, it means to subtract 1. If it were to come after it, it would mean to add 1. V stands for 5. The I stands for 1. So in this case, it would be 10, 1 taken away from 5, so that is 14. All right, so Louis XIV, he's going to come to power. The efforts of Henry IV and Richelieu strengthened the French monarchy, and it's going to pave the way for the greatest absolute monarch in history, Louis XIV, nicknamed the Sun King. Look at him. Look at him in his regal pose. This beautiful outfit. His standing tall, showing you his lovely legs. And look at that hair. Very nice. Very regal. All right, Louis, the boy king. So when Louis XIV took the throne in 1643, he was only 4 years old. Louis's not going to be an actual king right then and there. He's going to have Cardinal Mazarin rule for him in his place until Louis XIV was able to take the throne when he became of age. Mazarin's greatest triumph was winning that 30 Years' War, but he was hated by the people. He had raised taxes, and he increased the power of the central government. None of us like our taxes being raised. We would hate the person who does that still to this day. It happens. You need money to pay for things like a war. All right, so Louis is going to weaken the nobles' authority. Finally, in 1661, Louis XIV, at the age of 22, is going to be the king of France. He is going to weaken the power of the nobles by replacing them with government agents called intendants. An intendant is somebody who went around to collect taxes and administered justice. All right, Louis is going to appoint Jean-Baptiste Colbert as his finance minister. Colbert was a true believer in mercantilism. Remember, mo money, mo power. And his goal was to keep as much money inside of France as possible and making France self-sufficient. He wanted France to manufacture everything they needed and to not rely on imports. So he's going to give tax cuts and government funds to French companies. He's going to place high tariffs, which is a tax, on foreign goods. So any good that is being imported into France is going to have a high tax on it. People are not going to want to pay for that. And the French colonies are going to provide raw materials. All right, Louis XIV, as I said before, his nickname was the Sun King. It is just a nickname. Does he own the sun? No. Is he the sun? No. He had believed that just as with the power of the sun, that all power radiated from him. People needed him to survive. It is just a nickname. The Sun King's grand style. Louis spent a fortune, literally, to surround himself in complete luxury. Every meal was a feast. He's going to build an enormous palace called the Palace of Versailles, and he is going to make all the nobles live there with him. And Louis XIV, he was a great patron of the arts, which meant he paid for people to write plays about him and to paint paintings of him. So Louis controls the nobles. Like I said, he's going to make the nobles live at the palace with him. That is going to increase his royal power. It's going to make the nobles totally dependent on him. And it's going to take them away from their homes. And that's going to give intendants more power. All right, this is a big slide. These actually next two slides are two big ones. We're going to talk about what a symbol of power is. Something that shows the power of this absolute monarch that made him or her so necessary to learn today in history class. So take a look at this picture. This is a very small fraction of the Palace of Versailles. These are the grounds, a very small portion of the grounds of the Palace of Versailles. This is one of the many water fountains at the Palace at Versailles. So Louis XIV, his symbol of power you need to know, and I'm saying you need to know, put a huge star next to this slide. His symbol of power is Versailles, that palace at Versailles. I've never been, and I've been to France a couple of times, but I've never been to Versailles, but I know people who have been. They say it is so enormous, they can't even put it in words. It's ginormous, and it's so grand, it's so luxurious, it's beautiful. It's just, you're in awe when you're looking at it. This huge palace has many water fountains on the premises, huge gardens that you can go walking through, And inside the palace, it is just decked out in all things shiny and gold. It is just sparkling, fantastic, believable, woo, craziness. All right, so what makes this his symbol of power? It is so grand that when people look at it, they say, holy moly, the King of France, he's got power. It's huge. It's beautiful. It has hundreds and hundreds of people living there. I just don't even know like how else to say to you. This is crazy huge. Fantastic. All right, take a look at the next slide. You do have to open your textbook to page 600. You're going to look in the textbook and it's going to show you more of the Palace of Versailles and talk to you more about it. And you're going to answer the question, why did Louis need such a large palace? And how does it show his power? So right here, in this area here, you need to write your answer. I give you a hint. Think of mercantilism. Think about that definition of mercantilism. And write your answer right here. All right, patronage of the arts. Louis loved the theater. He was a great patron of the opera and ballet. The chief purpose of all art was to glorify the king and to promote the values of an absolute ruler. So Louis XIV, he is going to pay for people to write plays about him and operas and ballets. And there's going to be a play called The Sun King, where nobody was good enough to portray Louis XIV in this play called The Sun King. So he himself played the title role in the play. Crazy. All right, so Louis XIV, phenomenal, did a lot of fantastic things for France, really got them going, but he did a few things that were not so good. So the economic downfall of Louis. First thing is that he repealed the Edict of Nantes. And remember, Edict of Nantes in France grants Protestants freedom of religion. So if he repeals it, he's going to take it away. He's going to end this. So in 1685, he is going to end freedom of religion for the Huguenots. This is going to cause many Protestant artisans and business owners to flee the country. They do not want to have to be Catholic. They are going to leave to seek religious freedom. France is now going to have a serious lack of skilled workers to support its economy. Second downfall is called the War of Spanish Succession. So when the King of Spain left the throne to Louis's grandson, a war is going to start with France and Spain against Great Britain, Portugal, and parts of Germany and Italy. And this war is going to last from 1701 to 1714, and because France is involved in this war, it's going to cost a lot of money. So it's going to end up draining more and more resources from France's bank. All right, Louis's legacy. Positive, he's going to have France ranked above all other European countries in the arts and literature. Also, France was Europe's military leader. But a big negative is that his legacy is that he's going to leave France bankrupt. No money, nada, all money gone. And this was caused by going to war, that War of Spanish Succession, and the building of that grand Palace of Versailles. No money for France, all gone. All right, last thing, open up to page 602 in your textbook. You're going to say how many times greater the family debt was in 1715 than in 1643. All right, so take a look at that. You're going to have to do some easy math, some easy subtraction. Write your answer right here in the blank. And lastly, what caused the debt to get so large? 2 reasons. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. See you on the flip side.